This week's game is Dungelot Shattered Lands. Developed by Redwinter and published by TinyBuild, Dungelot was released February 18, 2016, and is a Minesweeper-style roguelike where you choose an adventurer and plunder dungeon after dungeon after dungeon. The story is... Oh, who am I kidding? There is no story. At least I can't remember what it is if there is one. Anyway, joining me this week to discuss Dungelot is aloof paladin JP Smee and blood-slurping vampire Will. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. Today we're talking about Dungelot Shattered Lands. So to kick off the discussion, JP Smee, why don't you tell us your thoughts about the sound/visuals of this wonderful little game?
So I'm going to be a bit of a downer this week.
Well, I wasn't being serious when I said this wonderful little game, but go ahead, keep going.
Well, no. I mean, the game itself, we'll get to that. But now the music was kind of forgettable. I hate to say it was just kind of boring. Well, not boring, just not anything special. Visuals, I mean, I feel like I've seen the same thing in like any of the Hero Academy, line of mobile games. It's okay, but it's kind of at this point almost cliche art style.
Right. All right. Well, I'm gonna be less kind. The music was just boring as shit. I think I listened to it for all of about 10 minutes, and when I could tell it was just looping, I muted it because it was just bothering me, and I started playing Final Fantasy music.
Which I could see making this a whole lot better.
It made it a more entertaining experience overall, much more engaging, especially like the Final Fantasy battle music. It added a lot more tension to the game than what the boring ass atmospheric music that's there. That's the best way to describe it. It's just ambient atmospheric music that's just something to be there in the background.
It's generic dungeon crawler,
making noise,
whatever.
The graphics, I mean, it was, I guess, a charming visual style. That was actually the first sell to me for the game when I looked at the store page, was the visual style. I thought it was neat looking. I thought it was nice.
It was the undead cow, wasn't it?
It was, the undead cow really sucked you in, the zombie cow. But once you get into the game and once you spend more than 10 minutes playing it, it's just, I mean, it looks okay. Honestly, I've seen better mobile games, so that's my take. Will, you're joining us for the first time this week. What did you think about the sound and visuals of the game?
Oh man, first of all, I'm surprised by you guys saying the sound and visuals aren't good. I thought seriously that for what this game is, it's actually got a lot of good art design, but it's a little bit not the best. It kind of reminds me of the zombies, Plants vs. Zombies game. A lot of that kind of drawing style.
Oh, I could see that. Like that kind of hand-drawn style. Yeah, little flash-based animation type things, yeah.
Yeah, so the humor in the game mixed with the ambient music, it really worked for me. I liked it a lot. It was actually really atmospheric. I don't know how long you guys played.
That's a good point.
Just looking at the Steam achievements, John played a lot.
Yes.
Compared to you and I.
I really gave this game a fair shake. I did complete the game, just throwing that out there. And
way to shame us. It's cool.
Yep. So, well, I wanted to really make sure that, because I judged this game very immediately in my head. And I thought that wasn't fair. So I continue to put more and more time into it, thinking that would eventually change my opinion, which it did not. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But it's just, we'll get into the rest of that here in a minute. So, all right, Will was an outlier with the sound and visuals. It's fair enough. Well, Will, how about you start us off with the gameplay discussion? What did you think about the gameplay overall?
So the gameplay was actually really entertaining. it's probably middling as far as like what I would give it review wise. These games are very fun, but only for a short time. There is some strategy involved with knowing when to continue on to the next floor. Um, but but it's a lot of fun. And I
Okay.
had to grind a little bit to get enough gold to be able to advance.
Yeah.
And it's addictive, really addictive. Um, I encountered some bugs though. I don't know if you guys saw that.
No, not that I
Major
can recall.
witch
Well, oh
bug
no, I take it back. I did. I actually found an exploit at one point.
exploit.
Yeah,
That's
there was, it was in Act 2, or was it Act 1? It was the final dungeon of either Act 1 or Act 2, and I did something where there was no limit to the amount of one of my spells I could cast. Um, it and it started showing negative numbers. So like I cast it the first time, and I went 1, and then I cast it again, and then it went 0, but it still showed active. So I clicked it, and I cast it again. I ended up only using that the entire rest of the 40 floors of the dungeon, and I think I ended up with like 256 times. So I used the spell like over 250 times.
I read about that bug. I encountered that bug. The one I saw was where you try to level up and it bugs out, and then the UI gets bugged out and you can't click on anything. And I had to close it like 3 times and reopen it.
See, I had a rage
that
quit at that point.
yeah,
Wow.
my fun train got derailed at that point, and I rage quit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can understand that. Well, what about you, JP Smith? What did you think about the gameplay?
So, first off, I didn't get any bugs or exploits. I feel kind of left out, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, gameplay, it's funny. Kind of like how you mentioned, John. Like when I first started, I had one kind of image in my head, and I was then completely confused because I read the reviews and they were all like, "Hey, it's like Minesweeper dungeon crawler," which I'm like, "Okay, it's a weird mix. Let's give it a shot." And I did the tutorial level, and it just did not click in my head why you would not just attack everything
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And it wasn't immediately clear. I feel like the tutorial did not do a good job at kind of showing, hey, you're losing health, and every time you attack something, they attack you back, and oh,
Right.
look, you're dead.
Right.
So once I kind of figured that out, which it should, I feel like that should have been more obvious. Like the first couple of deaths that I had, I didn't really understand why or how I died, basically. So once I started paying a little bit more attention, which admittedly is my own fault, yeah, the game actually started becoming really fun, and kind of like Will said, I found it kind of addictive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the thing I like most about the gameplay, though, is how quick it is. I mean, I played the game unlike you guys. Well, I don't know about you, Will. I wasn't watching your play, but for me, like I would just pick it up and play it in short bursts, and it was perfect for that. Like I could see this being on like my iPad or phone or something, and this would be a perfect. Like, hey, I've got 5 minutes to kill. Let me just knock out a level. Um, yeah,
Totally.
I enjoyed it.
Right. Well,
Here we go.
I I'm definitely done with the game. I'm good. I was good after the first 10 minutes. Um, it's just it never changes. It never. Yeah, there's some strategy to it, and there's some things you have to think about. Not only do you have to worry about your health, but you also have to worry about your morale. The more fights you get into on a dungeon level, the more likely your morale is to go down. Your morale stays more even or higher the faster you get through the dungeon. It seems, but like once you figure that out, then it's the same. And there were times where I felt like things were happening in the game purposefully to punish me. Um, I would be flying through levels, doing perfect, and then I'd get to one level, and no matter where I clicked, there was the highest level possible mob, and I would miss my first 6 attacks, and they'd connect every single time. And I'd go from being at the top of the world to dead. And out of a 40-level dungeon that's taken me 20 minutes to hit level 35 to then die and have to redo everything over again, fuck me, I hated it. God. This game, to me, really should be a mobile game. I think the best way to play it is exactly how you described it, JP Smee. Short bursts on an iPad, on a tablet, something like that. Playing this on a computer offered nothing additional. It didn't bring anything to the game. I actually probably would have preferred playing it on a mobile device versus playing it on my laptop.
Here's an interesting question, and this is just to get onto the hardware side of things. Did you try? I mean, because you're using the Surface, right? Can't you use that like a tablet?
Yes and no. I looked. This game, at least not that I saw, it wasn't optimized for touch controls.
Gotcha.
So really, my finger would have just been acting like a mouse. It wouldn't have really been any different.
Gotcha.
I mean, I guess.
I was just curious because I'm not really familiar with that style of interface. I guess
Right.
being able to go back and forth.
Yeah. No, I mean, if it were a game for Windows, a universal app, then I would have been able to. It would have come with a mobile mode. But this being a Steam game, it wasn't optimized for that. So,
Gotcha.
But I think I read some verbiage on their site about a mobile app either is out or is coming. I don't know. I didn't pay enough attention to it to really, and I didn't really care to pay enough attention to it. But I mean, the gameplay is fine. It's just I got bored real fast. I got my fill and I'm done. Which leads me into story. And since I'm the only one who finished the game, let me just say that I don't have to worry about spoiling anything because the game has no ending.
I suspected that was going to end up being the case once
No,
you unlocked all the characters.
No, it's not it's not just that. It literally is you're standing in front of a portal that's going to take you to the area that is what you would most likely believe to be the end, and it says coming soon. The game, as it is now, has no resolution.
So the game actually isn't even finished.
Well, I guess the story isn't.
So is it? Now I gotta look this up. This isn't in early access, is it?
No, it's just I mean, the story itself is, if you could even call it a story, it's just window dressing. It's just something there to semi-explain away what you're doing and to explain the art style they went with and to explain the visual touches they went to. Other than that, like, I was hoping based on the art style, because Will, you mentioned this, there are some touches of humor here and there. Towards the end, there were a couple Game of Thrones references that made me laugh. The guy mentioned winter is coming and things like that. So there's cute, charming little jokes here and there. So I was hoping that the story would at least be present, maybe some like cartoony cutscenes or something like that. The most you get, really, between acts are like little text-based conversations between some of the characters, and that's it. There's no, other than that little tutorial you have in the beginning, there's no real drive or explanation of what makes each land different. There's no little, we're now in the Egypt-looking place. This place is known for this, and bullshit and fuckery and blah, 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 blah. There's just nothing.
Yeah, there's no story. There's just funny dialogue.
So,
yeah, but I guess part of the thing that just did not bother me about that was because I played it the way I did. Where I
so you played it like a mobile game, and where you're not necessarily looking to have this Mass Effect quality story
Right.
or something like that. You're just looking for a quick fix, which
Yeah.
on
And
that
and
level I can see the story delivering. But
well, I mean, yeah, I totally like the closest thing to a story for me was, hey, there's totally a vampire dude I want to unlock. All right, well, I'll work my way towards that. And then I unlocked him, and then I was like, oh, I get to do everything over again, but now with a vampire. Okay,
right,
that's cool. Like, yeah, I did not care about story, but it was a short. I had one little goal that I worked towards, and I had fun getting to it, and I could, I had fun, but again, 5 minutes at a time. So
right. Will,
it's a
did you
different
have anything
way.
you wanted to add about the masterpiece of the story?
I
Ouch.
don't I don't care about stories in these types of grid-based games,
What?
but it
No,
had
but
an so
Tactic Final Fantasy Tactics was a grid-based strategy game that, although the story was convoluted as hell, was still
Hold on.
like,
I have to interject here. Remember the first thing that is listed on the description: Minesweeper meets Dungeon Crawler.
but
Minesweeper,
okay, but there are plenty of dungeon crawlers that have stories, okay? And
Minesweeper.
even though they may not be coherent or really good, they're at least more present
Sure.
than what is here. Diablo is a
no.
dungeon crawler
I,
that has more. I mean, obviously that's a AAA game and yada yada yada, but I mean, Torchlight. The original Torchlight story was but Torchlight 2 had a pretty engaging story. Something,
yeah.
anything would have been better than nothing at all.
See, I got my $10 worth when that zombie cow called me a moo ortal.
Nice.
Fair
I
enough.
And
approve.
I
I
was
approve.
done. I was
Oh,
his
you
soul at
know,
that point.
you know what? There's one thing I forgot to mention in the gameplay, and I wish that it was fleshed out a little bit,
Hmm.
like if they would explain it. Um, I totally dug the random things that I would get every now and again with my
Oh,
characters.
by clicking on things.
Yeah, it's like I guess it's not even by clicking on things. It's like when enemies would appear, you could occasionally, and it just seemed completely random, but you would get occasionally just have like an event happen.
Oh, like the
So
Ancient
like
Guardian or something like that.
not even that. Like as the paladin, I had one time my paladin like raised his hammer and prayed to God,
Oh,
and
oh,
like the
oh.
dude would just like
No, that
use
wasn't random.
Yeah,
fire.
he says, "Help me, Jesus,"
Yeah,
or
those.
something like
That's
that.
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
It's
and like the
fucking
same
great.
thing would happen. The same thing would happen with the vampire, and like the vampire ones were super cool, and like that was neat. I kind of wish that the game explained that at some point
Oh,
because it totally didn't that I could see.
well, I'll give you a 30, like a 10-second explanation.
Okay,
Those are your passive skills.
right.
Those get activated once your charge meter fills. Your charge meter fills by killing enemies and salvaging items.
So had I actually paid attention during the tutorial, I would have actually understood what that little bar
Bingo.
was. Nice.
So,
Okay, cool. Well, I liked being kind of like, whoa, that's fun, surprising, and now you just ruined the spell. So
sorry. That's what I do. All right. Well,
It does a good job at not telling you what to do. I maxed out my gold for a long time before I even realized you can upgrade the grayed out weapons and
oh
armor.
wow.
oh, that makes me want to cry.
Yeah, I
But my
know because I
playtime was
was
still only
struggling for
5 hours,
gold.
and I got to the end of Act 2. So
Wow. All right. So let's let's move away from story and let's get into um, what each of us thought was the biggest surprise for the game. Um, I started off stories, so Will, why don't you start off with surprise? What was the biggest surprise to you for this game?
the cliff of difficulty that you reach after the second encounter took me like 10 or 15 tries.
I agree.
Super annoying.
Your first few dungeons are like 10, 15 levels. Then you get to one that's like 20, and suddenly it's like, what the hell? I got to play this like 3 times to get through.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
So yeah,
I had a couple of those. At first I was like, "What do you mean?" And then I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah." I remember. I think it was the third dungeon I went into,
yeah,
and it was. I think you had to do 22 or something crazy.
yeah. And that the number of mobs per floor increases. So like the
Yes.
first two dungeons, you'll maybe hit like 2, 3 mobs, and then suddenly you're hitting like 4 and more, and it gets ridiculous.
Hmm.
Yep.
Um, what
I know
about
what
you,
I was
JP
into.
Smee?
Yeah, yeah. As far as that, on a good note though, the humor again,
Oh yeah,
big surprise.
I
And
that was probably for me one of the things I liked most about the game. I would say.
For me, the biggest surprise, I already addressed it, which was clearly me not paying attention to the tutorial. The whatever you call those things
Passive
when you get
skills.
this, yeah, your passive whatever thing, limit break, whatever.
Yeah.
That was fun. It literally completely surprised me, and I loved it. And I kind of don't care that it's my own fault for not paying attention because it was cool.
Right. All right. Well, my surprise, I don't know if either of you actually did. Will might have done it. Um, it was a mini game in the game called The Fort. Did you play that at all, Will?
no,
Okay.
Wait, is
but
that
fucking
the
it says was great.
is that the? I'm guessing it's not, but is that the thing with the blacksmith? Because I totally found him at some point, and that
Oh
was weird
no,
and
no.
annoying.
This The Fort was in Act Two. You reached a point where um, a scroll would appear on the like their overworld map for Act Two. So like where you would see all the dungeon entrances. And if you clicked on the scroll, it would open up like a text window, and you would play a minigame called The Fort, which was it's a text based minigame. Basically, the short of it is you stumble upon a fort. They need help defending the fort from orc attack that's going to occur in, I believe it was 16 hours. And you have a series of actions you can do, and each action will take a certain amount of time to complete. So you have to do things like salvage for food, chop wood, then use that wood to build defenses, build stockhouses, set traps. You have to rest. So you'll complete an action. It'll take up some time, and sometimes after you would complete an action, you'd get a message saying, "Hey, 3 refugees just stumbled upon your camp. Do you let them in? Do you turn them away?" Some wandering wizard wants to come by and train your soldiers, but he wants 42 food. Do you give that to him, or do you tell him to get the fuck off? It was the weirdest, most random thing dropped into the game with no explanation. It was literally just there, but it was such a dramatic change of pace from the mindless nunnery of constant dungeons. That to me was the biggest surprise because I loved it. Like I played that for at least an hour and a half. I sucked at it. I only survived at most like 2 waves of orc attacks because they would attack once and then it would reset the clock and then you'd have to do another 16-hour stint. So I think at most I only survived 2 attacks. But it reminded me of like an old school like text-based RPG that you used to play like way back in the day. It was different. I have no idea what the hell it was doing in this game. And maybe that was like an experiment that they threw in there to see if there's any, see how many times people actually play it, spawn that off into its own game entirely. I don't know, but it was. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it because at first I was confused as hell. I didn't know what I was doing, but it was a good time. That's my biggest surprise.
Sounds like
Um,
fun.
Now,
Kind of sad I never made it to Act Two.
oh yeah, well, should have played more of the game.
Yeah.
Or not, actually, or not.
Well,
um,
that's the other thing. I feel like the amount of effort I put into this game is kind of reflective of my overall kind of opinion. It was like it was fun, but it wasn't worthy of
right,
as
right,
much
right.
time as I guess I could have spent on it.
Yeah. So that good segue. So disappointment. I will start with this just to get it out of the way because I've kind of already beat it over the head. the biggest disappointment for me was really a lack of a substantive plot, or just some kind of narrative, something that would have been more memorable. That would have, the gameplay wouldn't have felt so monotonous and so boring to me had there been more of a reason behind it that was explained through a story, through even just I don't know, a minute-long cutscene, something. Even if it was just an audio cutscene with like some static images, something to like give me a reason to move on and push forward. Instead, the only reason why I kept playing the game was hoping that it would get better. And nope.
Nice.
So for me, that was my biggest disappointment. JP Smee, what was yours?
For me, it's this is something that I hate in a lot of games. Arbitrary, excuse me, arbitrary game mechanics. Just there because they can be. So in this game, there's a health, or not a health, a hunger meter thing. And I guess the only reason why it's there is to keep you from taking your time and, doing everything you possibly can. Um, didn't really help the game any. If anything, it kind of created this weird artificial incentive to keep going, and it just didn't jive. I didn't like it. Um, yeah, once I realized that I did not have to actually kill every single thing,
Hmm.
I also found that I had very little reason that combined with the hunger mechanic, I realized very quickly that the game basically incentivizes you to do as little as possible to try to get through the dungeon, and that I kind of just whenever I kind of made that mental connection, I found myself enjoying the game substantially less, and so I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of started to stop thinking about it because it's like, oh yeah, that's right. The game kind of doesn't want me to play it. If that makes any sense.
No,
Like
you're right. Because
the
I
game
would
rewards
literally,
you for not playing.
yeah, I would do
And
just enough to find a key,
yeah,
open the door, and leave. Like I would spend no extra time on the floor unless I needed to find food. Then that was
right.
the only reason why I would keep clicking on tiles. But that
A-
was it.
And and the other thing is, and I only got to the point where I unlocked the vampire, and I kind of cleared through the first zone again. Um, I don't know about the other classes that you can unlock, but the vampire is like super cheesy to that end because one of his spells lets you just teleport an enemy randomly. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys observed this, but if there's ever a pit, it always
Yeah,
randomly
teleports him to the pit.
teleports him to the pit. So yeah, it basically vampire turned into easy mode,
Right.
guaranteed win every time, and it was like, oh, okay, that's I want the challenge to get better and like different, but no, it was kind of completely broken.
Well, there
So
were further into the game, you'd have found dungeons where you wouldn't have been able to use spells on certain levels.
okay,
Um, and then there were also mobs that every time you used a spell would either heal themselves or attack you or heal other or add health points to other enemies on the board as well.
right.
Um, so
Oh,
further
that
on, there's incentive for that kind of stuff. But
that you also made me think about it. There are mobs that are in there just to make life difficult.
yeah, oh
Um,
yeah, there are.
I mean, like I can't
Mm.
even remember what it was called, but it looked like a zombie inside of a casket or something. And it's like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I can't even remember
Had
what
an
it. Oh, it
insane amount of
absorbs.
health.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it basically absorbs. It's like a tank. It
yeah.
literally absorbs all the damage you deal
To
to
anybody else on the map. Yeah,
anything. It takes instead, and it's like, oh, so the whole purpose of that mob is to take all of the possible damage that you're going to be putting out, while everything else in the room is beating the crap out of you. That's not fun at all.
yeah. I agree.
So, yeah, it's just weird, arbitrary things like that. It didn't fit, and it didn't make the game more fun. It just made it kind of a chore.
Right. All right, Will, what about you? What were you disappointed by? You seem to like the game more than
So,
we did, so.
well, I did, but the bugs, man, really the bugs is the really number one
Yeah, that
disappointment. I probably would
sucks.
have played it a lot more. I think lucky coins counter those casket zombies.
They do, but I can count on one hand the amount of times that I got a lucky coin, and I thought, boy, this is a good item to keep in my inventory
Really?
because
I always
yeah,
had a stack
dude,
of those in my
I,
inventory.
I I had 4 slots, and I don't know how to expand my inventory slots. I could
It,
not figure out a way,
no, it just happens as you
but
progress through the game.
I mean, I only had 4 inventory slots, and I'm sorry, but those things were the most valuable thing to me in the game, and the slots themselves.
Yeah.
And lucky coins, complete hit or miss. The same thing with like lanterns. I mean, I remember when it was like,
Yeah.
oh, I can use a lantern to see where the mobs are, or I can use the lantern to get through the gambler game. Well, that's cool, but you never know. You never know if you're going to get a lantern, and if you do get a lantern, and then all of a sudden you get a bunch of food or weapons or things you can throw or shields. Like every other item felt like it was better than a lantern or a lucky coin.
Actually, that's where I learned it. I learned late in the game. A lantern lets you see every enemy. So
Yes.
anytime you activate a lantern, you can avoid every enemy.
Yeah, they do become quite handy later on, because uh, once you reach Act 3, there are sometimes up to 10 mobs on a floor. Um, and so using the lantern to know where they are and just avoiding them, oh god, that was awesome. I loved every time I got a lantern.
Yeah.
But
Also
see, again,
disappointing.
yeah, I
The
was gonna say again that goes back to the game trying to incentivize you to find ways to not play it.
True. Yeah. Fair point.
so
Sorry,
I
Will. Go
learned.
ahead.
Cut you off there, Will.
I was going to say I learned late about those zombies that are behind barricades.
Hmm.
You can beeline to them and attack the barricades, and I didn't realize that.
Oh, you mean the ones
Oh,
like the zombies that
yes.
were there at the start of the level behind those?
The ones that hit you every
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah.
Like the
Right?
archers or whatever.
Yeah.
I countered that by eventually unlocking the bow and just always using the bow. And you can attack them right off the bat if you have the bow equipped,
Yep. Or you can also any time you have like
or a
an
bomb or a
item,
spell or
yeah, an
something.
item that you can use or a spell.
Yeah,
Yeah, I basically would stockpile those again. To me, more valuable than lucky coins
yeah, I
or
understand that.
lanterns.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it just
All right, well, I think we've gone on long enough with this game, so let's issue our final verdicts. Will, we'll start
Thank
with
the
you.
God.
What?
Definitely. No, I enjoyed it a lot. I'd give it a pretty solid 7
Okay.
if we're
Wow.
giving it scores, and I'd recommend it.
All right. Okay.
But
Fair enough.
only no, only if you can deal with bugs, and maybe if the game goes on sale, it's it's worth $5.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, JP Smee, what do you think?
I think you sold it a little high there. I did enjoy it. I mean, like I said, I think it would be a much better game on a mobile platform, and I'd honestly only pay maybe $1.99
Ooh,
on a mobile platform.
nice.
I don't think it's worth $10 on PC
Yeah.
at all. I'm sorry to say. I mean, it was fun, but it wasn't that fun. It I feel like it was money I could have spent on other things.
Yeah. All right. Well, to echo JP Smee's sentiment, um, I actually see. I had also given it a theoretical price in my head too, um, of $3.99. I think that would be the most I would pay for this game.
It's
Um,
funny because I liked the game more than you did, and you value it
yeah.
higher.
Well,
That's
I
kind of fun.
based on like I also got farther into the game. The challenge does ramp up. It does become a little bit like the level of strategy required to complete the floors does increase.
Hmm.
The mini game, the fort, that was a nice bright spot in the game. Um, I would say $3.99 with the promise that whatever DLC is apparently eventually coming to complete the story, you just get that as an update.
Hmm.
You
That's
should
fair.
not have to pay for that, in my opinion. If they've charged people for that, fuck no. Middle finger, moving on. Um, the game really to me worked. This is a mobile game. This is a mobile game on a PC, and all the stigma and stereotypical qualms people have with mobile games, I could apply to this game, and they would all fit.
Yep.
Lackluster story, if any. Mediocre gameplay that just gets really repetitive. Really only good for 10, 20 minutes at a time, providing you don't mind getting pissed off within those 10 and 20 minutes. I didn't hate the game. I don't want to sound so negative. I think because I did put so much time into it and I really did want this game to be better, I was just really, really fucking let down. And echoing what you said, God, I wish I could have spent that money on something else. But hey, that's why we're here. We spent the money so you don't have to.
Nice. There you go.
So, yeah. Would I say buy this game? If you get it on sale for really super cheap and you like just clicking random things, sure, go ahead. Would I, if I ever see Minesweeper and Dungeon Crawler in the description again, nope, not going to happen. Moving on.
I mean, I gotta give them some credit. I mean, they
tried something
really
different.
Weird. It's a really weird mash of concepts or genres, and by itself on its surface, it does work, and it works kind of well. They just didn't do as good at it as I think they could have or should have. But
if this is the game they wanted to make, they made it. It functions. Yeah. It achieves the goal they set out to achieve. It's just a turd.
It's very similar to Desktop Dungeons.
Never played it.
It's a free game. You should look at it. I think it's actually on the web too, so you can play it at work.
Nice. Well, see nice. Now if this had been a free game on the web, I would be willing to forgive so much more. But the fact that I paid for this, I think I'm done with this one. I think I'm done.
If you have fun fighting against adversity, you should try Darkest Dungeon.
Or just get married. So that completes this week's episode.
Very, very well done.
Thank everybody for joining me. Thank you, Will. Thank you, JP Smee. Thanks everybody for watching. Take care. Thanks to everyone for watching, and thanks again to JP Smee and Will for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also be sure to join us next week as we share our impressions of The Flame and the Flood. Until then, have a great week.